In a quiet workshop line, everything appears routine, then a sudden release sends force outward in seconds. Never stand in line with pressurized systems or unsecured components. Containment and distance are non-negotiable. A radial drill spins up in a cluttered workshop, then suddenly contact occurs and the motion escalates instantly. Do not operate rotating equipment with loose positioning or unsecured contact. Any contact point will be rapidly driven by the machine's motion. Inside a workshop, a large tire is being handled. Then, without warning, pressure releases all at once. Avoid standing over or directly beside a pressurized tire during inflation or handling. Stored energy can release instantly and with force. Inside a printing shop, rotating press rollers pull material inward, and any contact in that zone is immediately drawn into the machine's feed path. Inside a dim loading bay, a truck bed tilts and a side gate opens. Loose sand begins to flow outward under gravity. At a construction site, an unsecured brick sits above an active work zone, creating a direct drop hazard. A rolling mill glows with heat, and suddenly a stream of molten metal flows outward in a sweeping arc. A large mixer sits idle during cleaning. Then, without warning, the system suddenly activates. Never, ever energize equipment while maintenance or cleaning is in progress. Lockout and verification must be absolute. At the paper production line, fast-moving rollers keep pulling material inward, then unexpected contact occurs within the motion. Do not position yourself near exposed, in-running rollers. Maintain safe distance and ensure guards are in place before any interaction. At an outdoor worksite, a forklift holds a suspended load mid-air. Then the danger zone beneath it becomes immediately occupied. Always keep clear of raised loads and ensure lifting equipment is fully lowered before approaching or working nearby. Inside a factory line, a massive stone slab shifts slightly. Then the balance gives way all at once. Never ever manually support stone slabs or remain within the fall zone of suspended or leaning materials. Gravity will take over instantly if stability is lost. A printing machine runs at full speed, rollers turning inward, and contact occurs at the feed point in a split second. Never ever approach or interact with in-running rollers while the machine is active. Maintain guarding, safe distance, and full isolation before any access. On a factory floor, a hose line is in use. Then the pipe suddenly releases under pressure. Always isolate and depressurize fluid lines before connections and verify they are secured against sudden release. On a roadside walkway, a line marking machine rolls over a manhole, then the ground suddenly releases pressure beneath the surface. Ensure underground utilities and confined spaces are assessed and ventilated before operating heat or pressure-based equipment over sealed covers or manholes. Inside a quiet supermarket checkout, everything is routine until the glass front suddenly shatters inward. Never position workstations directly in line with entry points. Install physical barriers and maintain protective standoff zones between storefronts and occupied areas. Inside a backyard construction frame, a ladder is set in place. Then, in one instant, the entire setup loses stability. Never rely on unsecured ladders or unstable framing as a working platform. Always anchor ladders, stabilize the base, and maintain 3 points of contact before applying weight. Inside a steel warehouse, a suspended coil hangs quietly on a hook until something shifts and the load becomes unstable. Do not stand or work beneath or beside a suspended load. Always maintain a clear exclusion zone and ensure loads are fully secured before positioning. At a fast-moving production line, sheets glide smoothly under a gantry system until the machine suddenly cycles while the zone is not secured. Never enter or reach into an active automated system without full lockout and verification of zero motion. Machines can cycle without warning. At a busy container yard, a truck rolls into position beneath a towering gantry crane, just as suspended containers show signs of instability. Never position vehicles or personnel under a suspended container unless it is fully stabilized and confirmed secure before lowering. At an outdoor factory station, an industrial mixer is actively running as material is fed into it. Then the system suddenly increases in motion. Do not introduce materials or tools into an active mixer without complete shutdown, isolation, and proper guarding in place. Inside a heavy industrial line, long steel bars feed into a rotating processing chamber. Then the system suddenly increases its inward motion. Do not interact with moving feed lines or rotating chambers without complete isolation, guarding, and verified shutdown procedures. Feed rollers and rotating chambers create continuous linear motion combined with rotational force. Once material is engaged, friction and torque generate a strong inward draw that cannot be manually resisted. Moving systems convert contact into motion instantly, shut down, isolate, and maintain distance from active feed zones. On an elevated slab, a worker cuts through concrete at the edge. Then the section suddenly loses support as the cut separates it. Do not cut or weaken a structural slab without verifying support conditions below. Always assess load paths and secure the section before separating it. In a backyard cooking setup, a large metal pot sits over intense heat. Then the surface beneath suddenly fails. Do not place high-heat cooking equipment on unstable or heat-sensitive surfaces. Use reinforced heat-resistant foundations designed for thermal load. Prolonged heating transfers energy downward into the surface, causing expansion, moisture vaporization, and internal stress buildup within the material. As heat accumulates unevenly, trapped gases and weakened structural bonds create pressure zones that can suddenly fail, leading to cracking or explosive rupture. Heat doesn't stop at the surface, it travels and builds silently. Stable foundations and heat control prevent sudden structural failure. At a front entryway, a worker climbs a ladder to handle a large curved panel. Then the entire setup suddenly loses stability. Never handle large or awkward materials from a ladder. Use stable platforms and proper support to control the load at all times. At height, on a narrow scaffolding, an AC unit is being positioned. Then the ladder shifts and the setup suddenly loses stability. Do not carry heavy equipment while climbing or working at height without proper lifting systems and secured access. Use hoists, maintain 3 points of contact, and ensure scaffolding and ladders are fully stabilized and tied off before any load is moved. When a worker carries a heavy object, like an air conditioning unit at height, the combined center of gravity shifts upward and away from the body's base of support. This reduces stability and increases the moment arm acting on the structure beneath. As the worker transitions from scaffold to ladder, the load creates uneven force distribution. The ladder, which is designed primarily for vertical loading, experiences lateral and outward forces due to the offset weight. Height multiplies every mistake. If the structure isn't secure, nothing on it is. On a paper production line, a massive rotating drum shifts under load. Then the entire system suddenly moves out of balance and transfers force outward. Ensure rotating drums, support arms, and mounting systems are securely locked, regularly inspected, and isolated before any close interaction or maintenance. On the edge of a high-rise concrete frame, a suspended platform suddenly shifts, and the open space below turns the area into an immediate fall hazard. Never rely on unstable edges or unsecured platforms. Always use certified fall protection systems and secure anchorage points. At height, even a small shift in footing or platform stability moves the center of mass beyond the support base, causing instant loss of balance. Without guardrails or anchorage, gravity drives rapid downward motion, leaving little opportunity for recovery. Height hazards escalate instantly with zero margin for error. Secure footing and proper fall protection are the only real controls. Inside a factory, a sealed pressure pot cooker sits under operation. Then the door suddenly loses containment under pressure. Ensure pressure vessels are fully depressurized and mechanically secured before opening or standing in front of access doors. Inside a workshop, a car rolls forward, heading straight toward an open service pit with no barrier in place. Never leave service pits. Always use physical barriers and wheel stops to block vehicle access. A moving vehicle carries forward momentum proportional to its mass and speed. With no stopping barrier, that momentum continues toward the pit opening. Once the front wheels lose support, gravity shifts the vehicle's center of mass forward, and the vehicle loses stability at the edge. Open pits are invisible hazards to moving vehicles. Block the path before motion reaches the edge. Inside, a loaded truck of foam rolls. One step, one spark, and the entire space ignites rapidly. Never ignore static electricity in enclosed or flammable environments. Always ground, discharge, and control ignition sources. On a factory floor, a massive industrial washer suddenly surges, and the load inside turns into a powerful force in seconds. Never stand in the plane of rotation or discharge of high-speed machinery. Always assume stored energy can release without warning. Industrial laundry machines spin at high RPM, storing significant rotational energy in both the drum and the load. If the load becomes unbalanced or shifts, that energy converts into strong outward motion along the path of rotation. Rotating systems release energy instantly when balance is lost. Stay out of the line of motion and keep control zones clear. On a cluttered factory floor, a massive rotating drum hums quietly until a small contact triggers a much more powerful response. Never use your body to test, adjust, or interact with moving machinery. Always assume any contact point can activate a hazardous motion zone instantly. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.